Good evening, discerning viewers everywhere. Welcome along to Neil Oliver Live on GB News TV and on radio. Tonight, I'll be joined by six-term parliamentarian, freedom fighter and general man of the world, George Galloway. We'll discuss whether the UN is fit for purpose, amongst much else. We'll also be asking whether the Pfizer vaccine should be given to women during any stage of pregnancy. And we'll be hearing from the music industry legend Pete Waterman about his amazing collection of model trains. All of that, plus plenty of chat with my brilliant panellist, Andrew Eborn. Joining me tonight, the broadcaster and lawyer, Andrew Eborn. Good to see you, Andrew.
It's lovely to see you again.
Flying solo on that couch.
Oh, I don't feel sort of empty here. There's nothing but spaceman, as Sam would say.
What I was talking about there, what's going on in America, what do you make of this dogged pursuit of Trump?
And it's extraordinary. This is happening on April Fool's Day, but no amount of made-up pranks could compete with the stuff that we're seeing in the news every single day. And you're right, we're drowning in a sea of information, most of which is false. And I think you have to question everything. Even, I mean, Ofcom require us to put balance in there, so you can sort of turn around and say, well, Macron, for example, his side of the story for that was he was sort of bouncing his watch, he needed to take it off so it didn't clunk on the desk, is what he would say.
Did he know?
That's exactly what he said, absolutely. So none of this Marie Antoinette to let them eat cake. It was that sort of moment, which is why he hid this multi-zillion-dollar watch. But America is quite extraordinary. For the first time in history, a president has been arrested. And the narrative is quite extraordinary. I was half expecting to see a picture, the money shot with Trump in handcuffs and things like that. But he's done a deal whereby that's not going to happen. He will, however, be fingerprinted and have the mugshot and so on and so forth. But it's playing into his hands because this first case about payments to Stormy Daniels was basically, it's probably the weakest of the cases against him, because you've got the whole issue about the January 6th riots and so on and so forth. There's all sorts of allegations and it's not quite clear what the charges are yet.
What did you make of Nancy Pelosi's form of words to prove innocence? I mean, how could someone in her position possibly get that wrong in that way at that time?
I find it extraordinary. You're absolutely bang on the money on that. If ever there was a case of showing what you're thinking, that was that phrase. No, absolutely. Nobody has to prove anything. If you're charged with something, it's up to the prosecution to prove so that the people are sure that the person did it. You don't have to prove anything. And the form of language, what's happened is Trump's popularity, as a result, has soared with his supporters. He predicted last week that if I get charged and arrested, that everybody will rise up in my favour, and that's exactly what's happening.
It's so dangerous, though, I think, for an administration to be so blatantly seeking to provoke so many people to do goodness knows what, so that there can then be a response.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
That is monstrously irresponsible.
And it's also naive. I mean, talk about naivety. You turn around and say, if you do this, it's very predictable what's going to happen. All you're going to do, you're not going to turn people off Trump. The people who are supporters of Trump will continue supporting him. He's always said he's the victim. It's all political. And all this is playing into his hands on that one.
Yeah. Welcome back to Neil Oliver Live.
I have always thought the extension of the vaccination to certainly under 30s, and particularly the under 16s who aren't in a position very readily to make a decision for themselves, was foolish. And one of the low points for me among several in the whole COVID story was when the 4 chief medical officers decided to get together to overrule the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation, when they had said, no, we shouldn't be vaccinating 12 to 16-year-olds. That seemed to me to essentially undermine the position of professional advice and look suspiciously like they'd been leaned on by the special advisors and the administrative civil servants to give a get-out-of-jail-free card to the politicians who are getting pressure from different areas. If the politicians want to do things like that, I think realistically you accept that that's what will happen, but at least let them make the political case and take the responsibility for it.
We're having problems connecting to Dr. Jim Thorp in Florida. Andrew Eborn, you'll be listening to that, what Dr. Salmon is saying. After all that we've heard, after all the justifiable concern around these products that are pushed as vaccines, what is your reaction? just as a reasonable man to this ongoing insistence on the use of them?
I have a real problem with this whole situation, and I'll tell you why, is that everybody has become an expert. Everybody's become a virologist. Everybody's got medical knowledge. The difficulty that we have is that the experts don't agree. And the danger is when you talk out against it, you get shut down or you get fines and so on and so forth. To be clear, and I've been handed all sorts of information about things are false and everything else, the NHS at the moment, they're saying that vaccines are both safe and strongly recommended.
I've got my man in Florida,
Go for it.
Andrew Eborn, if you bear with me. Dr. Jim Thorp, are you there finally after much effort? Jim, hello. Jim, I don't necessarily have too much time with you. Tell me, what was your reaction when you realised that these products, sold as vaccines, were to be given to pregnant women?
Are you directing that question to me, Sean?
I am, Dr. Thorpe, yes.
Yes. Well, this is unprecedented in the history of medicine. Never, ever have we rolled out a experimental gene treatment and never had it tested and roll it out globally in pregnancy.
And every year we build a giant railway for Chester Cathedral for the school holidays for people to come and play with it. And that's what it's all about. It's like, get people to enjoy playing with it. That don't touch, it's taken us 100 years to build it. That's not what it's about. Come in, have some fun, enjoy.
It strikes me, Pete, that it's surely a completely different experience to be with something real, where the generations coming through at the moment experience everything on a screen. Whereas to be in a space, as you're describing, with actual equipment that actually moves is altogether different.
Yes, so what we do, Dale, is we give them a tablet. So the tablet is their technical side, if you like, and they can drive the real trains. And the kids just take to that straight away because they instantly know what to do with a mobile phone or a tablet. And you can see that the enjoyment they get from that, actually seeing something move in front of them and being able to walk around. And of course, being kids, the first thing they do is they open the throttle as fast as it can go, and they want it to do 290 miles an hour. That's all they care. They just want to see it crash.
Andrew, are you reassured by Pete's testimony that there's still children coming through who, given this opportunity, will grab it with both hands?
I love it. I love the idea of getting people's faces out of screens. And I know Pete is a fanatic about this sort of stuff. I mean, he even named, I think, a boring machine literally boring machine for the high-speed railway, Dorothy. I'm not quite sure what you had against Dorothy, Pete.
Correct.
What was that?
So she was a scientist from Coventry, which is why they named it Dorothy. One of the things that technology has done is allowed people to build model railways and work them totally, on technology and not even go into the room to play with them. And I say, why? Why? That's not the point. The point is you're with your mates and you're having a crack. You're enjoying yourself. You're having fun. You're giving each other information.
Pete, it's lovely stuff. Pete, lovely stuff. Lovely to see you. Great to hear about that. Something real in an artificial world. My thanks to Andrew Eborn for joining me today. It's my Easter breaks.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.